Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, how about scams? Are you getting scammed? We're going to tell you how to defend yourself against them. Brian Roche is here to do that. But first, we have a couple of the state's leading reporters. What would we be if we didn't talk about another election like the governor's election? That campaign is, well, it's underway. We'll do that and more following these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Welcome back. Well, we got an action-packed show. Action-packed John Micek from he's the editorial page editor with the Harrisburg Patriot News and Pennlive, and Mike Straub, he's WGAL News 8's. Can I call you government reporter? Does that work for you guys?
I think that's my title, yeah.
All right, John, look, you and I have been through 100 campaigns if we've been through one. We now have the governor's race.
Every time you say that.
I know, but the fact is we have.
Yes.
Look. The governor's race started before the presidential race was even over. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. The dust has barely settled. We're in the middle of like a recount push from Jill Stein, and we're already talking about the next governor's race. There's
2018.
2018 seems much closer than it ought to be right now.
Now, but here's the question. Are we sure that Governor Wolf, Mike Straub, is going to run for re-election? He's hinted it on at least one radio show. He said he had no formal announcement. Well, you wouldn't expect him to make a formal announcement until this year, I would think. Or I should say next year. We're almost in this. Go ahead.
I mean, go back to his original campaign and where he came from. He's never been a traditional politician in the sense that maybe we're used to. So
he's not like Donald Trump.
We're by no means saying he doesn't want a second term. He has never denied that, but he's never gone about it the same way as everybody else. So it'll be an interesting 2 years to see here. I mean, there was rumors floating around, but he may, if there was a Hillary win in November, he may have been on his way to Washington. Those were all things swirling that he never confirmed, obviously, but we expect him to be in this race again.
Now we have another York millionaire, a state senator by the name of Scott Wagner, who has been probably of all 253 members in the legislature, do I got that number right?
Exactly.
Has been more critical, correct me if I'm wrong, of Tom Wolf. He's already said he's running for governor. Has been more critical, and he's taken him on, Governor Wolf, on a couple of important issues.
Yeah, you got Scott Wagner, who runs Pet Waste down there in York County, the small business conservative who's made his fortune off of government contracts. Who's taken every opportunity he can to smack Governor Wolf around, kind of a battle between two York County rich dudes. Very much in the Donald Trump mode, very combative. He hitched his wagon to Trump fairly early on. He's finding that sort of breaking the China approach working for him in the legislature. He's got a fairly significant power base, even after only being there for scarcely, 2 years, 2.5 years. It's really quite something.
But he's also helped the Republicans in the Senate pick up, 3 seats this year, and was it 2 seats 4 years ago, whatever, 2 years before that. So, but the fact that, and he picked a pretty big fight with Governor Wolf over this unemployment compensation funding and whether they should close down some of the regional offices, all of them in Republican districts. They pointed that out. What's going on there?
Well, this plays right into Wagner's wheelhouse. He came in on he's the trash man. He came in on a government waste kick. There was a 4-year plan to fund some improvements under the labor industry and unemployment offices. And after 4 years, it wasn't done. So they asked for more money. And Wagner, he's really the leader of this group that says we're not just going to keep throwing money at problems unless we see results. And that's why he's argued it. The governor's office has said we've been the Labor Department and the governor's office say it's been very upfront about where the money's going, what's going to happen. Wagner and others have dug their heels in, and this is just the kind of thing he wanted to do to put his name out there and really take on the government.
All right, before we leave this topic, it's obvious that a number of other Republicans are looking at running. We hear some pretty big names like the Majority Leader, Jake Corman. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've got Jake Corman, the Majority Leader out of Centre County, Dave Reed, the House Majority Leader from Indiana County, Mike Kelly, the congressman from out northwestern Pennsylvania, Mercer County, Erie, up that way, is another one who's been mentioned. You sometimes hear House Speaker Mike Terzai's name in the mix. No shortage of Republicans who are sort of chomping at a bit.
And Wolf could have a former state Democratic chairman, I guess.
That's a possibility. Jim Byrne.
He yanked him.
With whom there's some bad blood between the governor from out in Allegheny County. A former mayor out there has said he might challenge him in the primary.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Trump's coming. We have sanctuary cities. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and we'll continue in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, now celebrating 100 years as the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back to the program. Oh, this is a little fast-paced this morning, and it's going to stay that way. Donald Trump coming to Pennsylvania. Is that called a victory tour, a victory lap?
I think he's calling it his Thank You America tour.
Yeah, same difference.
Right. The big kickoff was in Indianapolis and the jobs and the carrier plan, that deal that worked out, and the tax breaks for carrier keep the jobs in Indiana. And Pennsylvania was such a huge, I think you think about that night when suddenly Pennsylvania went Trump. Obviously, he had to pick somewhere to come on to Pennsylvania on this tour, and he's coming back to the Giant Center, a place where he had a huge crowd late in the campaign. And so, we'll see him back here.
I'm a little surprised, John, he didn't go out to the Southwest or up into the Northeast, that really delivered the state for him. But nonetheless, Hershey's a great venue for it.
It absolutely is. You look at Luzerne County, which is kind of like the ground zero for the Trump wave in Pennsylvania. But Central PA came across big for him
great point.
As well. And, he's well beloved and popular in this part of the state, so it makes sense.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that his victory is now about 44,000. We thought it was 70. The recount going on as this show airs, they will have appeared before a Third Circuit Court of Appeals judge to see if they can get a statewide recount. Now, you've been following that. It seems unlikely, given that they haven't shown definitively that there's any real. What's your sense about that?
Well, following that this week, we got more of the details as they pulled their state lawsuit and tried to shift federally. Right. We got more details on what they're really sort of questioning. And their argument is that the voting machines, particularly Philadelphia County that still uses these voting machines, are hackable. And they point to things like hacks into the Democratic National Committee's emails as proof that things are hackable, and so they say paper ballot.
They're not online.
I'm just telling you what their argument is.
Stein is asked to have the machines inspected. A judge down in Philly rebuffed her. She's making a similar request out in Allegheny County as well.
But they've also done. I might be off by a couple. 75 precincts in Philadelphia, or divisions as they called them, have already been examined, and she's picked up a couple of votes. They did them in Allegheny County with, again, I may be off by a couple precincts, 42-45. Zero improvement. John, you've covered so many of these, like I know you keep. Is this going anywhere?
Not really. It's not going to. It won't materially change the result. I guess it's an exercise they feel like they have to go through, but it's not going to materially change anything.
Yeah. On January 20, at this point, we know who's going to take the oath of office.
If nothing else, it has raised Jill Stein's profile and put some money into her campaign. So we have to point that out too.
That's the important one. All right. Sanctuary cities back on the table. It's big. Philadelphia's a sanctuary city. We have some sanctuary universities now, Swarthmore, Penn. Is this going to have any import, you think? This is turning into a much bigger issue than I think people thought.
Yeah, it was a campaign issue in the Senate race, particularly the Toomey McGinty race. Trump talked about it plenty. Philadelphia appears to be really doubling down on keeping their sanctuary policies. In this Pennsylvania state legislature, when the bill came up, the opponents brought up that there was many more counties and municipalities who had some level of sanctuary policy in their, local municipality codes.
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, lots of places have little pieces here and there.
Where they're not cooperating with the federal government.
But you have Philly mayor, Jim Kenney, who's playing some serious chicken with the Trump White House right now. He was at the Community College of Philadelphia earlier this last week, saying he's not backing down. He wants to see, he's hopeful that the city can reach some sort of accommodation. There are literally hundreds of millions of dollars in federal grant money or federal assistance between grants and roads and all this other stuff on the line. And if the White House decided to be difficult about that, I mean, they could conceivably cut off the flow of that cash.
Here's the question
and Trump
I
has
raised.
said that's what he wants to do.
I don't think Trump is going to kick out 11 million illegal immigrants. We can argue about the path for what they have to do and how long it takes and what they have to pay to become citizens. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's arguable. But what happens if Congress, and they've been talking about this, passes a bill saying if you're an illegal immigrant and you commit a felony and your city or municipality won't assist the federal government and turn them over to federal officials, then you're going to lose money. Doesn't that make a different argument? Either one of you. John, you go first.
It is. I mean, and it's a tougher one to argue with. You're talking, I mean, as opposed to a mechanical immigration violation, you're now talking about a violation of the law. You're talking about a felony. It certainly does up the ante. Yeah,
I think that makes it very, very difficult to sustain no cooperation at all, because you're not talking about rooting up. Look, you have all these children and kids who've been in this country, some of them working 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, I don't think anybody... Trump is serious, and he's had 15 positions, I'm exaggerating, on this issue. I mean, that creates a whole other environment for this debate, doesn't it?
You're right. And to both of your points, the sanctuary city policy, really making a law in place to cut funding, that's a policy that's doable, and it plays very, very well into the PR world that the Trump supporters would really react to.
We have a lot of time next year to talk about this. Another issue. John Micek, give me one or two things that you're looking for. The legislature is going to come back. Most conservative legislature in modern history, heavily Republican with the gains they made, a pretty liberal governor. What's the big challenge?
Scott Wagner's talking about making a fresh push on school choice in the new year, and it doesn't go away is pension reform. They got almost over the goal line with a bill.
Yeah, that's right.
And within 3 votes in the House of getting that through, that's still hanging out there.
What about budget?
Exactly. It comes down to the budget. Look at the way
two important things. Now we have three.
Look at the way Wagner has dug his heels in on some funding to one department. Get ready for this budget battle this summer. It's going to be the governor's race already taking shape.
Yep.
Great update. All right, Brian Roche, News 8, WGAL News 8 anchor and consumer reporter, is going to tell you how not to get scammed. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania, and by the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance, representing companies involved in America's most affordable, reliable energy source. To learn more, visit pacoalalliance.com.
Well, we're in the holiday season, the peak of the holiday season, and it's scam time. I'm looking across the desk for me and Brian Roche. He's the anchor consumer reporter for News 8 on WGAL-TV. You have a full-time job just covering these, just following these, don't you?
Yeah, it does keep me in business. Sadly, it does.
I understand.
Great job security.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a couple of these. The one that you and I have chatted before about a few of these email shipping scams are well underway. What should tell our viewers how to protect themselves?
Well, I know you have different clothes for different parts of the season, different seasons of the year.
Yeah.
Merchandisers, retailers have different merchandise, and so the scammers also have different scams that use different parts of the year. And right now, we're seeing a resurgence of the shipping scam. The last couple of weeks, people order tons of stuff online, and now they're expecting it to be shipped to them. So they're waiting for these shipments.
Right.
So the scammers send out these fake emails that say, there's a problem with your shipment. Click on the link in this email, and let's straighten this out. Well, clicking on the link in that email leads to nothing good. It could compromise all of the safety in your computer. It could even compromise your personal information. So a couple of quick tips we have for people to watch out for this thing. If you get one of these emails, first of all, look at the header. Does it say Dear Customer, or does it say anything? Or does it say Dr. Terry Madonna? Is it addressed to you personally? If it's not addressed to you personally,
forget it.
It's probably a scam.
So forget
Second
it.
thing is, if the email doesn't mention the name of the company that you ordered from or the product that you ordered, it's probably a scam. And again, if there's a link or an attachment, bad news.
There you go. So everybody, you're following that out there. I don't know, but we do a lot now online because you're right, more and more, and you get the packages delivered, right? And
well, this year, more than 50% of the packages and the gifts that are expected to be given are coming through the mail or shipping services.
Wow. All right. I love this one. Porch pirates. Now that is a term. I'm glad you didn't say Pittsburgh Pirates on here. And I know I can get into that with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Porch pirates. These are the guys and the women, I should say. They're not just gender specific.
Men and women.
These are the people who follow around the UPS trucks, the FedEx trucks, the USPS trucks, the DHL trucks, and they'll sit back about a half a block. And when they see a package being delivered and put up on a porch, they'll just kind of sneak up there, take the package. They don't care what's in it. And we've seen a lot of surveillance video as more people put surveillance cameras on their porches.
Right.
We see the video of the people walking up, just grab the package, and they walk away. So we advise a lot of people to either have the package delivered to their work if they can, or this year, a lot of the shipping services are offering places where you can ship them to, such as shipment lockers. For example, UPS has a locker in a grocery store that I'm familiar with. You can have it sent to that locker. They send you a code in your phone, and you go and you use the code, open up the locker, and your package is safe. Or you can have it sent to a neighbor.
You know what? That's really interesting because in my neighborhood, you drive by and you see packages all over the place because of this tremendous increase. And you have working, two people working in a family. There's no one home, 8 to 5. You could go to dinner. You might not get home. And the deliveries often come, who knows? They may say it'll be there at a certain time. It even could be a day later.
Exactly. If you can check with your employer, if your employer allows you to have packages delivered to your office, that's the best bet because someone's there usually from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 at your front desk.
Yeah, that's
I know
true.
Yesterday at my place of employment, they called me and said, you have a package down here. I went down and there were about 15 or 16 packages there for my coworkers.
For your coworkers.
They were all having things sent there to keep them
Somehow
safe.
I don't think that a lot of folk, the porch pirates are going to go into a TV station in a lobby of it, or outside.
No.
That's the last place they're going to be, right?
Exactly. But you're right. You see a lot of these packages sitting on a porch.
Oh, I see
them
them
there
all
for
the time.
taking.
Yeah. All right, we're going to run to a quick break. Coming back, we have two. Charity scam, and I want to get to that, but here's one. Ticket scams for bowl games. This is an important one. We'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, advancing quality, improving lives. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Business Council and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation.
Brian Roche from News 8, WGAL-TV. We're chatting about some of the big scams. All right, let's get right back to them. Charity scams. Oh, it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, they try to take advantage of people's generosity this time of year. So a lot of phone calls to raise money for, you name it, Cancer Society, the Police Association, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing to keep an ear out for, when people call you and they want to do this, ask them if they can send you information in the mail. Will they give you time to make a decision? If they want money immediately, most likely it's a charity scam.
This is really fascinating because I've done that now, even for charities that I know. Mm-hmm. When people will call me, I'll say, well, please send it to me in the mail. I'll sit down with my wife and we'll take a look at it and decide what we want to do. And sometimes if it's charities, a lot of people have charities they give to regularly, right? Just for different causes and for different reasons. So I might say, yeah, I'm going to make a contribution, the amount, and send me the stuff, even if I know where it's coming from.
Right. I understand them trying to get the money. As long as they have you on the phone, let's try to get the money out of the person right now. I understand that. But if it's an organization you've never heard of before, or they're not pronouncing your name right, chances are you haven't had a dealing with them in the past. Yeah. If, again, the red flag here is if they want money right now from you,
worry about
and
it.
If they want it through an electronic transfer, such as a wire transfer,
that's not happening,
or anything like that, a prepayment card, that's probably a scam. You can use two websites that I recommend, GuideStar and Charity Navigator, and you can find out if that charity is legitimate and real.
They get a check. They don't get the credit card anyway when I do it.
Well, let me jump in there on that. Credit cards offer you a lot of protection.
Well, that's right.
You have 60 days of protection to challenge something that wasn't legitimate.
And you're protected anyway in some of them just by the amount. Yeah, I got it. All right. Here's one that you just mentioned to me before we went on air. Ticket scams for bowl games?
Yeah, I have to give credit here where credit is due.
Are we going to the Rose Bowl with Penn State?
I would like to.
Go ahead.
We have to also mention that Pitt is also going to a bowl game this year. They're going to the Pinstripe Bowl. But
I knew you would remind me of that.
I'm the sports guy for you. This warning actually came out from the Attorney General's office, and it's a good warning because people are very excited about both of these teams going to bowl games. It's a big bowl game for Penn State.
Oh, sure.
But there's a lot of ticket scams out there. They're trying to get money out of people, thinking that they're selling them packages, things like that. You've got to stop, pause, and actually check things out. Don't jump on it right away.
Yeah.
If they're selling you a ticket, get online. You can find these websites that actually have the outline of the stadium. Find out if the ticket is real. Find out if it's a real seat in a real place. Also, they're pitching a lot of hotels that say they're within walking distance. Well, a lot of these hotels, walking distance if you're doing a 26-mile marathon maybe, but you have got to take your time. Don't get overly excited here. Yeah. Take your time and make sure you know exactly what you're getting with these tickets.
All right, before I let you go, for the last year, for this year, the current year, what was the biggest scam that you think you tried to protect people from?
There's no question the biggest scam for the past 2 years has been the IRS tax scam, where people get a phone call telling them that they owe money to the IRS. Without a doubt, Terry, the biggest scam out there. However, we had a major development regarding that scam in October of this year. Over in India, 700 people were taken into custody because they were running a call center out of one place and making all of these phone calls. Since that arrest has taken place, October the 5th, I have received almost no complaints about this scam. What fascinates me about that is that it may have all been taking place in one place. I find that hard to believe. I thought it spread all over the globe, but that's in one place.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see, and then I'm sure looking forward into next year, you'll be back, and we're going to be talking about, and it's surprising how many people really do fall. We got to get out of here. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.